Hello, and welcome to Appleton Engaged. I'm your host, Timber Smith, Special Assistant to the Mayor for Community, Culture, and Belonging.
And I'm Anindita, the Communications Manager for the city.
And Appleton Engaged is a podcast that explores the many people, organizations, and resources that make our community a great place to live, work, and play. So whether you're a longtime resident or just getting to know Appleton, join us as we learn more about our community together.
All right, folks, today is a special one. We are joined by not only our boss, but one of the biggest cheerleaders for the community.
Yes, and I'm even more excited about this conversation because he was one of the biggest cheerleaders for this podcast. So, this week's guest is Mayor Jake Woodford.
Hey,
Hey.
thanks for having me.
Well, Mayor Woodford, can you please tell us a little something about yourself and your association with Appleton and the surrounding Fox Cities region?
Well, how much time do we have?
Not that much.
Okay, all right. I'll keep it brief. But I was born and raised in Appleton, and I even went to college in Appleton. So after graduating, I took a job at the university. Went to Lawrence University, and then took a job there. Was there for about 6.5 years, and ran for mayor. And so I've been doing this since April of 2020, and was reelected to a second term about a year ago now. So I will be this term runs until April of 2028, and I've got lots and lots of connections to the area. It's the most I can say is that I've changed zip codes.
Fair enough. Can you please tell us, why does the city of Appleton have a podcast?
This is a great question. It's something that I've talked with municipal leaders about in other communities. And really, truth be told, we have a podcast because of Timber. Timber has his own podcast, and he's been doing this for some time now, and started talking with me about having a podcast. And he said, "Hey, you should do a podcast, Jake. We'll produce it, but you should do a podcast to talk about what's going on in the community and keep people updated on what's happening at the city." And I said, "That's a great idea, but then reality set in of what it takes to actually do a podcast." And we happen to be recording this episode live in a room full of people who produce podcasts and know how much it takes to put something like this together. And so after a little while, Timber said, "Okay, I understand you haven't done anything about the podcast, so how about I just get a podcast going and get going with Andy." And that's where we started to talk about, okay, what's the creative direction for the podcast, and who's the audience, what's the purpose of doing this. And part of the reason I had some reticence about doing my own podcast and just talking at people about Appleton things was I don't feel like I need to do that. And I think part of the opportunity of having a platform like this role is to share it and to create opportunities for others to talk about the things that they're doing. And so that's where we started to narrow in on how we would use the podcast, because one of the recurring themes that comes up in local government is folks see the issues that we see in the community too, and want the government to do something about it. And our resources are limited, and the scope of our work is sometimes limited. But there are so many organizations and people in our community and in the surrounding communities who also see those issues and take up that work. And we partner with them in lots of different ways to help get that done. And that's, I think, part of the force multiplier that we have as a community, is that there are so many people and so many organizations doing great work to solve problems. So that's how we started to narrow in on creating this platform. And Timber and Andy took it and really ran with it. And it's been amazing to see.
So my question would be, do you have a favorite episode or episodes?
One that comes to mind is the episode we did on impacts of federal policy changes, because it was different. It was different from what we had been using the podcast for. But as we've been learning more as we go about how the community's engaging with local government, how the community's engaging with media, what we are finding is that there's less meaningful engagement in short form communications. So think like tweets and other sort of short format information blasts, just because there's so much demand for people's attention. And so using a longer form communication platform like a podcast to actually have conversations about what's happening, how it's impacting the work that we're doing, how we're thinking about that work. And also, I think that the voice carries emotion in a way that writing can't always. And unless you're a really, really amazing writer, but local government's not known for its great prose. And so, creating a space for people who work at the city to talk about that. So I thought that was a great episode. But what I really love about the podcast overall is that the guests really help create the tone and the energy. And part of the approach that Timber and Andy take with this podcast is having a very consistent format and way of approaching it. Even the way Timber says hello at the beginning of the episode, it's really consistent. And what's great about that is, first, the personalities of our hosts come through, but it also creates this kind of blank slate for the guests who come in. So every episode has the feeling of who we are talking to, who you are talking to, come through that much more clearly, because you really are creating just a platform for people to come and talk about what they do. So I love that about the podcast.
No, I completely agree. And another thing which I have seen, that we've humanized the people behind that audio. Sometimes we just think of city government as an entity, but then you have to also understand there are committed, dedicated public servants working 24/7 behind the scenes to keep the city up and running, and giving them that voice really makes a difference. And I think that creates that connection which is required in today's, I sometimes say from a communication standpoint, time of disinformation and misinformation. So I think that's a great takeaway from that podcast.
As someone who's often walking around our community, shaking the hands, kissing the babies, what kind of feedback have you heard from the community about the podcast?
So I've heard lots of feedback from folks. First, appreciation that we do this, that the city of Appleton invests the time and effort in putting together a podcast and producing it and making it available. There have been examples where organizations in the community learn about something that another organization is doing, and either find an opportunity for a partnership or realize that they're duplicating efforts. Sometimes that happens, where it's like, oh, someone else is doing this, and they're really good at it. And we've been doing it 'cause we didn't know that there was somebody else doing it, but we can let them do it, and we'll keep doing what we're really good at. There have been organizations that have gotten connected with funding opportunities by hearing from guests on the podcast. And so the podcast has really helped become part of the connective tissue between organizations and individuals in the community. And that's something that in my role, I see as a really important part of my job, which is helping make connections between people and efforts in the community. And my predecessor also talked about that. And some of he was in office for 24 years, my predecessor, and some of his greatest points of pride from his time in office were those moments where he was able to help make connections between organizations to get something done. And I feel exactly the same way, but it's really gratifying that this podcast has become a vehicle for doing that even more often and more organically in the community, because I can't be everywhere. As much as I walk around the community and shake hands, I have never kissed a baby, but not like a stranger's baby. People say that. I don't want to get us off on a tangent and unpack that, but But yes, I've never done that. I've never been asked, and imagine that. But yeah, it's again, I used the term force multiplier before, but I think the podcast really helps us do that because I can't be everywhere all the time. And as much as sometimes folks think that the local government knows everything about what's going on, like there's a crack in my sidewalk, or that you must know that and you're being willfully negligent. No, not always. So the podcast has become part of that effort to help connect folks, and so I hear that from people in the community and organizations who are grateful that we do this.
Well, I'm going to switch it up. And since I never get an opportunity to do this, I'm going to ask my co-host, Andy, a question. And Andy, would you mind sharing a story that'll help our listeners understand the importance of this resource?
Wow, he put me in a position now because
Yes, I did.
I think when we started the podcast, I was very new to the place, though my connection to this place has purely because of the art, Rhythms of the World. And I used to come all the way from Marinette County to dance here. And that's why I fell in love with Appleton. And not many people know that I interviewed for my job for 3 times to get into the city. Every time I failed. And I came back stronger. And second time I failed again. And I came back stronger because that was... And every time he was my interviewer.
It's true.
Facts.
So behind this podcast was, I think, what I was trying to learn was I can only communicate only if I know about the city I'm serving. That means I need to talk to people. And that only will help me strategize the next line of communication because it's changing. The world is changing. New communities are coming in. If I say I'm from India, that doesn't mean that I know everything about all the South Asian countries and all the other countries or Far East Asia or Africa. I don't know. I have to learn. And every communication is very nuanced. So what you see is just not a post. And that's what I love about Mayor Woodford, that he has been very supportive. He has a strong eye and, very strong eye for details. So I have learned so much. And this podcast has been a resource for me to learn about the city I serve. And that is what it is doing to the community members too. They didn't know about 100 resources are available in this community, and there are many more waiting to be recorded. That's how rich this particular community is and Fox Cities region is. So I think we don't know a lot about the city we live in, and that is what we have been doing, me and Timber, and thank you, Jake, that you have supported us in this journey. We couldn't have done this without you, but we are learning, we are engaging, and we are strongly working together to make sure that our residents get the maximum benefit out of every resource we are pushing out.
Now, to be fair, Andy, I won't ask you to tell a story without myself telling a quick one myself, just to be fair. And so what I want to share is how I knew this was such a good thing and really had momentum and power behind it. The PAC had just hired a new community engagement person, and they set up a meeting to meet, and we met. And then the first thing they said when I met them was, "You're from the podcast, right?" And I said, "How do you know about the podcast?" Well, I just moved to the community. I was listening to this podcast to get ready to move into the community. And because my job is community engagement, to partner with other nonprofits within our region, other organizations within our region, I was able to get a running start because I had this audio catalog of all of these resources to be able to connect with. And I was like, oh my God, that's it. That's the magic sauce. And it blew me away. My second one was I was sitting in the elevator one day with the postman, and I was talking to somebody in the elevator, and they stopped, and they go, "Hey, I know that voice. You're that dude from the podcast, huh?" I said, "What? You listen?" He's like, "Yeah, when I deliver mail, yeah, I listen every week. Great. Nice job, man." And I was like, whoa, we got the post people. You can't lose if you got the postman listening. So that was pretty exciting. All right. Next question. Are there any initiatives, events, or engagement opportunities? And I think I'm going to answer this myself because they both looked at me with raised eyebrows. But this is a typical question that we ask in the episode. And what I will say is, yes, our engagement opportunities are every Thursday and Friday. We record every Thursday and Friday, and we release every Thursday a new episode. Once again, we said we're on episode 94 today was what we released. We have probably another 15 to 20 in the hopper that can be released. At this point, we've been producing for close to 2 years, I believe, coming up here shortly. We've had approximately somewhere between, I want to say, 17,000 to 18,000 downloads, which I think is pretty good, for a government podcast. I mean, we don't have the magic sauce that some have, but
we don't have the like clickbait titling down yet.
Nah,
where it's like one bizarre trick to get your trash collected better. You won't believe. Yeah, we haven't got that down yet.
Don't give us ideas now. Andy's genius. So our audience, our demographic is about 2/3 women, 1/3 men. And our primary group of listeners is like that 35 to low 50 age range. So,
yeah, and the podcast is really about the entire community and everybody in it. And the work that we do as a mayor's office is for everybody in the community. And so that's when there's a lot of rhetoric right now about inclusion and belonging, and what does that mean in community, and where's the place for that in public life. And our conception of that is as broad as it could possibly be, and really is for everybody in the community. And so the guests who come on the podcast have represented just about every sort of organization and area of work that we have in the community, certainly in the nonprofit sector. And our listeners also represent a really broad spectrum of perspectives and backgrounds and experiences in the community. And the agenda of this podcast is to create opportunities for people to share about the work that they're doing and to make that information available to anybody who wants it in the community. And so I think that these are some of the powerful aspects of this podcast and the way we go about the work in the community. And, so we don't walk into this podcast with a particular agenda. There isn't a political driver for this other than to create opportunities for people to share and to connect. And I think that just speaks to our confidence in the fact that if we are doing our jobs authentically and we're trying to represent our community well and serve our community well, we trust that the community will recognize that and appreciate it. And so I don't need to be an insecure politician about, using every opportunity I can to talk about how great I am and what a nice job I'm doing, because there's just many people who tell you otherwise, I'm sure. What I try to do and what we try to do is use this platform and use this office and this role to elevate others and to create opportunities for others to thrive and do well in this community. Because the more people are thriving and doing well in our community, the better we're all doing. And we really sincerely believe that. And this podcast is just one of the ways that we try to accomplish that mission every week on Thursdays.
And I would love to say this about these two sitting next to me. And, I can be very critical. See, I come from another country, so I don't have the right words all the time in my mouth, and I can be sometimes really direct. But what I've seen, that these two are so much dedicated in what they do. Like when we do the podcast, they try to be very neutral. They try to include different kind of voices so that everybody feels represented and welcomed, and that's how we make a community accessible. And that's the entire idea of the resource. I'm really thankful that we have Timber with us, who just not only an expert on how to do the podcast, but how to do it right, because that we have to do it right. We can be on a slippery slope and just be in a space where we should not be. And I think that's what we have maintained for 2 years.
Yeah. And I realized, Andy, that when they put the promotional materials together for the podcast, I was like, this is Andy hanging out with two bald guys. And I hadn't really thought about that till I saw the materials, and I was like, it's really good of Andy to hang out with these bald guys. So thank you, Andy, for your patience and your grace. I'm sorry. It's live. It's live.
It's facts. Is there anything the community can do to be helpful?
Well, I think I'm going to frame this in a more contemporary sense, which is right now we're in a particularly charged moment in public life in our country and in our community. And tensions are high, and people are anxious. There's uncertainty, and the full spectrum of feelings about what is happening in the country exist. There's elation about what's happening in the country. There's despair about it, and everything in between. And this is a time where I think we might be tempted to turn away from each other and to turn away from community, to not show up to events like this where we gather together and learn from each other. And I think that now is the time when that's as important as it's ever been, because when we actually interact with real people face to face in our community together, we recognize that we have so much more in common. There's so much more that binds us together than drives us apart. And I think that's really hard to do and to feel in a virtual space. And so it's really, really important right now that we turn toward each other, that we turn toward community, and we look for those opportunities to bridge and to connect. And I'm not saying that is going to solve all the ills that we face or that we're trying to navigate as a community, but I do think it's absolutely essential that we stick together and we look out for each other. We turn toward each other, because one of the things that makes Appleton so special and the Fox City so special is that this is a place where when people see issues, when they see something that's not right, when they see something that needs fixing, they get to work on it. They don't let it sit. They get to work on it. Or they look for somebody who knows how to work on it, and they join with them. And that's something I really love about this community. And I never want us to lose that. And we don't have to. We get to make choices about how we treat each other. And so my encouragement right now, and what we can all do to help, is to continue to remember that it's a choice. How we treat each other is a choice. Respecting others, respecting ourselves, respecting the people around us, treating people with kindness and compassion, giving grace. Those are choices that we get to make. Those are not choices that are made by somebody else or a government for us. As individuals, we have a choice. So I would encourage people to continue to exercise that will to choose kindness, compassion, and community. And I think that's what we can do for each other always, but especially right now. That and pay your property taxes, shovel your snow within 36 hours of a snowfall event. Yeah, but thanks for the question.
So how can people learn more about this resource? What are the ways people can access this resource or tune into it?
Like and subscribe. Is that right?
No, that's right.
Okay.
That is good.
I didn't actually know.
that.
If you like this episode, smash that like button.
Facts.
Drop a note in the comments.
So you can
Sorry,
definitely.
I'm sorry. I'm in a room full of podcasters. You all know. Yeah.
So you can find us on our website, on the city's website. We are on all of the popular podcast hosting platforms.
Some of the unpopular ones too.
We're on some of those too.
We're not above it.
Yeah, we're anywhere where you can find podcasts. And we also are on YouTube. So we do that for a different demographic.
Good catch.
Yeah, I almost said it. I would have gotten in big trouble for that one. All right. Now, which is like my favorite part of this show, it is shout-out time.
Shout-outs.
All right. Who are your shout-outs? And Andy, you better think of some too.
Well, I have to give a shout-out. It's a 100th episode. I have to give a shout-out to Timber and Andy. Yeah, shout-out to you guys. So the mayor's office is a staff of 4, including me. So you're what you see before you is 75% of the mayor's office, and we have an incredible team, and I'm so grateful that we get to work together and that we have fun working together. And if you can't tell, we enjoy working together. And the 4th member of our merry band is also very much a part of that, and we really enjoy the work that we get to do together. But I appreciate the determination and the commitment that Timber and Andy show to this work. They do really hard work, and government communications is tough. So Andy fields a lot of that, and Timber works on solving problems, and some of those problems are really complicated. And this is just a team that is creative and determined and so committed to the work and doing it in a way that is about really celebrating our community and helping people live well here. And so I'm just really, really proud of these two for the work that they've done. They've taken this idea of a podcast and they've really turned it into something special and lasting and deeply meaningful for the community. So I'm really proud of you guys, and so congratulations on 100 episodes, and look forward to many more. And maybe you'll have me back.
Yeah. We'll talk about it.
So my shout out goes to, of course, my colleagues, the entire mayor's office team. Without those, I couldn't have survived. And that's a big thing because I love Appleton. I've created such beautiful relationship. Even within this crowd, I have many familiar faces sitting here. And I'm so proud to call them my friend, family. When you're away from your home, this becomes your second home. And I think Appleton has made me feel like I'm at home. And that's a big compliment for every one of you because you're such a welcoming community. And, you have just made me one of you. So that's a big thing. Thank you so much, Appleton. And, of course, my boss, my colleague, and my friend. So that's my shout out.
All right, I almost never get to do shout outs, so I'm going to do some. Anyone who's ever listened to an episode, thank you. To every guest, because it's your time and the fact that you are willing to come sit down in the chair and share about your resource and help make us a better connected community. I appreciate you. Every alternative host that we've ever had to have, thank you for taking that risk. And to everyone who's ever reached out to us to say, I think this would be a great organization, or this would be a great topic, or we want to be on there. Thank you for being willing to share what you do with our community. And to my fellow podcasters in this room, I can't tell you how happy I am to spend this time with you. I've been giddy all day to hang out with you. I'm nerding out a little bit. Thank you for the work that you're putting in on your podcast, helping to make this a better place. So I appreciate you all. Okay. So at this time, we're going to start wrapping up this episode. So first, we want to say thank you, Mayor Woodford. Appleton Engaged. I just want to take a moment to my Appleton Engaged listeners. I want to say thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for giving us your minds and ears. Thank you for caring about another great topic, another important resource. You help make this community stronger and better every time. Now, just in case you didn't know, but we say it every episode, we are trying to become the #1 podcast in Northeast Wisconsin, and we can't do that without your help. And what does that look like? Well, as you listen to these episodes, if you come up with questions you'd like us to ask, let us know. If you would like to be a guest, let us know. If you'd like to recommend a guest, let us know. And how do you do that? You can email us at belonging@appletonwi.gov. Once again, that is belonging@appletonwi.gov. Also, for us to get in front of more eyes and ears, that happens through analytics. And you know what that means? While you're listening, hit that subscribe button. If you've got a few moments, fill out that review. And if you see some stars there, preferably 5, press. These are the things that help this amazing community resource get in front of more eyes and ears and help to create more impact within our community. This resource known as the podcast Appleton Engaged.
So this was our 100th episode. So maybe after 6 episodes, this will be pushed out on one of the Fridays, which I'm looking forward to. And I will conclude the episode with the news that we have an awardee here too. So he received inside 40 under 40 awards. So give a big round of applause to Mayor Woodford.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you for what you do. Thanks to both of you for your dedication and passion for the community. I see it every day, and I'm so grateful that I got the opportunity to work with both of you. With that, until next time, stay thoughtful, stay curious, and stay engaged.